Good morning. As you can tell, behind me my stove is being taken out. We actually had a really horrible cold go through our house, sickness, the last 2.5 weeks. In the middle of the sickness, our oven stove went out and it is no longer useful, so we're getting a new one and hopefully it will be here, I think, in another couple days. But meanwhile, and I'm sorry if my voice ends up cracking or I end up coughing, I'm still on the end of it. Meanwhile, we have to try and figure out how to cook in other ways. And so I'm making the einkorn buttermilk biscuits. You can find this recipe on the blog. And I am going to attempt to do this on our camp stove out on the porch, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know that I've actually done this before. I'm going to cover them to see if that helps, but you can follow along and see how it works, and let's get started. The other thing that has been happening is that right before the sickness, we had planned to start taking out our carpet. We were going to take out the carpet and then got sick and everything, and last night, my husband just started taking out the carpet, so that's going to be a wild ride. We're going to try and figure out if we have good enough floor underneath for the original floors that we can keep those, and we'll look at that and see if we can just refinish them, because that would be wonderful. If not, we'll have to put in entirely new flooring. But that's going on, and then I'm also waiting today to hear back from the doctor about some important tests. And so things have just been up in the air and very stressful. And so today we have the camp stove out since we don't have a stove. I want to make a comfort meal for us for breakfast. Well, far be it from me to give up when things do not turn out the way that I want them to. And so, of course, I had to do the recipe over again, even though we finally got a new stove, new oven. But I still had to do it. And guess what? This time it worked out so much better. So I want to tell you how I did it and give you a few tips for how you guys can make this work for you, especially if you're out camping. So this time I made sure not to heat up the skillet too much. I did put the cast iron skillet on before I put the biscuits on, but that was only just to let the heat warm it. I didn't want to make it hot. It doesn't need to be hot because they're obviously gonna heat up underneath really quickly, as you just saw. So this time I put the biscuits on just right after I had put the skillet on. And then I had the heat, I would say it was kind of a medium heat as far as the camp stove goes. I didn't want it to be too hot. I put the lid on and then I let it cook for about 5 minutes. At that point, I checked it and I turned them, which is one of the first things I learned, is that you really just want to get the bottoms baked and then you want to turn it. Don't worry about getting the whole thing cooked. Just get that bottom cooked and then you can flip them over. That's the difference with the camp stove, is this is not an oven. You can't recreate an oven like your oven is going to cook things evenly throughout. So we do have to make sure that we flip this one side and then we cook it on the other side doing the camp stove. I cooked it for about 5 more minutes, but before that I turned it down. So I turned it very low as soon as I flipped them over. Let them cook another 5 minutes. I checked them, and at that point they were pretty much perfect, but I just want to make sure that the insides were cooked thoroughly. And so I turned the camp stove off, I put the lid back on, and then I let them sit there for about 3 more minutes just to make sure everything was cooked well and to give it a little bit more of a fry on the bottom. That was what I did. I definitely learned from before, because I really allowed them to cook on one side too long before. But these ones turned out wonderful, and I think at this point we can use this idea when we're going camping with our camp stove, and I hope you guys can too. If you haven't seen the recipe, you can check out my farmhouse buttermilk biscuit recipe on the blog, and you can print out the recipe there. But now we have a new oven, and so now that we're home and not camping, I can use the oven, which is what I'm going to do because it is way easier. And just so you know, I got word back from the doctor, and it was a biopsy that I'd had, and it is not cancerous. And so that was very good news to hear back. Our walls in the room that we were taking the floor out of, we found out there's some rotting in the walls. So we're going to be working on that. And that will be what a lot of our time is going to go to these first few weeks of June. I hope you guys are having a good late springtime, and I will be trying to hop on again soon and share where our garden is at, because I just want to give you a little heads up with where our spring garden is at and some of the things I'm doing this year in that, and how I'm using that for our kitchen. So anyways, I will talk to you guys again soon. Thanks for joining, and I hope you can use this video as you go into the camping season. Bye-bye.